So this is a follow-up video. I'm watching the Alec Murdaugh trial. I said on Monday, I will link that video below if you haven't seen it, that I do not think that Alec Murdaugh is currently a murderer beyond reasonable doubt. He's a bad person. He's a thief. He's a sneak. He's a liar. He's not a murderer to me yet. That could change. Bro is sus AF. I want to make sure to emphasize that. I've been watching the streams every day via Emily D. Baker, who is wonderful. We're currently on a break about 1:36 p.m. on Tuesday the 7th. And the financial stuff is officially in front of the jury right now. I want to make a correction from my Monday video. Alec Murdaugh's father did not die before the double homicide. He died 3 days after. So still, that's a lot on the mind and on the heart for, somebody be dealing with their father in a poorly, deathly state. Still probably planning the stuff. But I did want to make that correction. But I'm watching the break, and Emily D. Baker's point is, who's going to go, because Alec Murdaugh and his team are trying to say he was a target, and I still think that's a very good possibility. She's saying, who would go after this family? He had power. He had friends in high places, the police, SLED, other lawyers, the bar. He's got his friend list and affluence and influence all over the place. Who's going to go after him? That's why there's somebody who could be after him. I think I'm going to double down on now I don't have any legal standing. I am just watching this as a true observer, unofficial jury person watching this. And my point of view is, I still think that there's a chance that he has a target on his back, because I have been the victim of a bully, and we've all been victims of bullies. A lot of us have been, and we don't like them. So somebody, he screwed over so many people. Remember, all of his financial crimes of his theft and stealing, it only goes back so far. He's probably been doing this for a while. And so there are people who aren't going to get settlements back because, the financial things, they have a limit. There is a statue that has probably been hit for some of those people. Mallory Beach's family, they're not going to get justice. Stephen Smith's family is just starting to get their sense of justice beginning. The Statterfields and whoever else, imagine being Mallory Beach's family and the Murdaughs are allowed to go to the scene where their son is the alleged killer and driver of the boat that killed their daughter. And they're not allowed on scene when they're the one who lost somebody? Excuse me? And the Statterfields, Loyal House, and then sussy death. Somebody's mother, somebody's brother, sister, lover got screwed over by Alec Murdaugh, and they're vengeful and after him. And yeah, he has friends in high places. There are probably a lot of lawyers in this small area with this long-standing Southern family who were like, oh, Alec Murdaugh? No, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. So there are people who are not getting justice, who do not feel like they got justice because too many people were willing to turn a blind eye to Alec Murdaugh's inappropriate and immoral behavior. They're like, what do you mean? This person has clearly done something wrong. Well, we're not going to punish them. We're not going to clear people out for an official search because it's the Murdaugh family. And someone is sick of people going, well, it's the Murdaughs. Well, it's Alec Murdaugh. Well, it's the And somebody's like, you know what? If I can't get justice the right way, I'm going to vigilante this ish, because they can't find justice because he has so many friends in high places. Somebody's going to go after him because they couldn't get help or justice elsewhere because they weren't willing to go against Alec Murdaugh. So that's my current standing. I still think that. We're back with the trial of Alec Murdaugh. I had a rough day at work. It's Wednesday the 8th or the 9th. I don't even know. Anywho. But what we learned the last couple days in trial is that Alec Murdaugh is definitely for sure a liar and definitely for sure a thief. And Shelley, the caretaker, said that he tried to get her to lie on his behalf. To be like, hey, say if somebody asks, I was here for 30 or 40 minutes, not the reality of 15 or 20. Ronnie's testimony was heartbreaking, almost as heartbreaking as the friends, like Rogan and Wills. Then we had Michael Gunn on the stand, and the prosecution didn't ask any of the right questions. The prosecution, they better have one heck of an end game in their minds, because right now they're not piecing pieces together. They're not connecting any dots for anybody, and it's more chaotic than the Murdaugh situation. Because they don't ask the right questions. It's like, oh, they're going to ask this question, like, did you really know him? Did you really, like, all these things, like, what else could he be hiding? You know, when they're talking to Annette Griswold and Jeannie and Shelley, all these people, and they're also being, is it just me, or do some of these, you know, older Southern men, is it, like, maybe I'm just sensitive, but I feel like they're being very dismissive of these women who are having all the strength in the world to come forward against this powerful man whom they cared about very much. Now, I will say that there's more and more things that make me sus about Alec, because he's like, is he willing to do anything to get people off his back and feel like he's the main man in control again? Maybe, but the prosecution hasn't put that forward. And the defense could lean into, you see, we had a bomb threat because there's a vigilante who's still trying to target the Murdaughs. And I don't want to jump to conclusions and like, I think he's guilty of financial crimes and fraud, but to say that he's a murderer for those things is wrong for two reasons. Because if there is a psychotic Murdaugh family targeting vigilante, they're not getting looked at all, and everyone's gonna put their guard down, and then we're gonna have more murders of Murdaugh family members. We don't need that. So, still not convinced, and the prosecution needs to ask better questions and just do a better job with the puzzle, because we're just puzzled. We're not connected. Okay, it is Friday the 10th. I'm going to try to go fast through this. It's about 1:20, 1:30 in the afternoon. We got to first break. I've just watched up to the first break. I'm going to update this later. That's why I'm trying to make this fast. And I'm watching it with Emily D. Baker. And she has brought to light, and now the jury doesn't have access to Emily D. Baker and the internet's demonstratives. So hopefully the prosecution can do like a coup de grace, big impactful summary demonstrative of this, that, this, with the red yarn making a big arrow to Alec Murdaugh. And if that happens, that's great, and I will be very impressed. For right now, they're not doing the most. But Emily D. Baker is, and I am starting to falter on my reasonable doubt because of Emily D. Baker's speculations. And that is, we have just watched most of the direct examination of Blanca, the house manager who took over Gloria Satterfield's duties. Wonderful person. She made me cry. And she has been giving us some of the best testimony that Annette Griswold, Jeannie the CFO, Shelley the caretaker, and the home manager, Blanca, have been the best witnesses for this trial. They have laid out the most details and the most like, just, they know their stuff, and they're giving us the stuff in a very digestible way. And that is that Alec Murdaugh, through multiple people, he's a lie. He's willing to lie to those closest to them. He doesn't seem to care who he hurts, which is very in line with people who have drug addictions. When they're in the midst, in the thick of that addiction, they don't care who they hurt to get the money for their drug. So, and he hurt his bestie. He was like completely just done with the Beach family. He screwed over the Satterfield family, even though they had such a close relationship with their mother. And he's lied to a lot of people, and he lied to the police amongst that about where he was, because bro was at the kennels. Bro was not with his mom, because Shelley called the ish on that, because he tried to tell her how long he was there. Say I was here 30 or 40 minutes when he was really only there like 15, 20 minutes. Like, And also, the biggest thing that Emily D. Baker has brought to mind, like, is that And according to Blanca, and we might get more details in a little bit, but Maggie Murdaugh wasn't planning on being at Moselle. She wasn't staying at Moselle most of the time. She was at the beach house in Edisto. And so, I might be mispronouncing that, I apologize, but she wasn't planning on being there. Alec convinced her to come back, and he did the same thing with Paul. Paul was all over the place. He was planning on getting a house, I think, in Charleston or somewhere else. Bro has been partying and out and about elsewhere. He wasn't planning on staying and being at Moselle either. He was also separately convinced, lured to the Moselle estate by Alec Murdaugh. And so, since they didn't plan and originally weren't going to be at Moselle until Alec made requests for them to do so, how would a vigilante know they were there? How would a vigilante know that they had guns on the property and that they wouldn't need to bring their own? Like, where is this other gun? Like, you're saying a vigilante stumbled upon Maggie and Paul out there and was like, oh, I'll just use your gun and take it with me? Like, that's sus, bro. That's sus. But yeah, more details to come later. But I'm starting to see the road to guilt. Unfortunately, it's not being presented by the prosecution, so that's still a problem for the jury. Suspicious trips and suspicious police investigative work happening today on Saturday the 11th. I had to wait till after I got home from work to watch the rest of the trial, and my reasonable doubt of Alec Murdaugh being guilty is rapidly disappearing after all of the rest of the testimony. The rest of Blanca's testimony was really having a bunch of good old boys trying to tell her what she saw. And Alec tried to get another person to cover for him. Like, you remember I was wearing this shirt? And she's like, no, I wasn't wearing that shirt. And then the defense is like, well, you don't remember what shirt. I know all of his shirts. I did his laundry for years. Like, I know this stuff. And so that, it was a fun thing. And then we have lots of testimony about Bubba the dog. Bubba has become a surprise, like, alternate witness, because according to Blanca and Tootin, one of Paul's friends, that if Bubba had a bird, he was hard to catch, he didn't come, he didn't listen, and he ran around. We heard Alec in the Snapchat trying to call Bubba, and Bubba not coming. So since he's a stubborn dog who had a bird, how long did and when law enforcement came, Bubba didn't have a bird. Bubba wasn't out running around. Bubba was bird-free, kennel cozy. So someone, like a family member, had to put Bubba away and get the bird away from him. So Alec was definitively there. He lied about where he was. The 911 call is sounding more and more like it came from a car rather than from a disturbing scene, which I'm now very much more convinced that he had a hand in. He was trying to make that boat case go away, and he was not paying. He was not paying for this boat case. And guess what? Since the main culprit of the boat case, his son, isn't there, okay, stuff is happening. And he's making suspicious trips, supposedly with his in-laws. I hope we get some testimony from them. Did he really go on vacation with them to the Keys that Tootin dropped him off the airport for? Or was he making a special sly side trip to the Bahamas? Me thinks that's more about what's going on. And they're like, Paul's so irresponsible. Someone could have stolen his guns. They were lured there by Alec. Alec had to put Bubba away. Alec was on the scene. Alec was willing to lie and steal from hurt people, from people who thought of him as second family. And he did not have a great relationship with Maggie. She was sus about what he was lying and hiding from her. And there was $30 million allegedly on the line that they did not have. They're pretty wealthy. They're not $30 million wealthy from this boat case. And Alec just wouldn't settle. And she's like, make it settle and go away so we don't have to try to pay $30 million plus. And he was like, I'm not being taken down by Tinsley. So, boy, it got spicy. The judge just walked off. Alex trying to intimidate, charm, and lie his way through the people who were helping his family. It's crazy.